So we've got a bit of a special today. Dazzling Dave from Always Wolves Fan TV. Dave, we know each other from doing some recording. We did for William Hill, didn't we?
About that's right, yeah. That's just at the end of the season before last we did, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, the glory days, mate, the glory days. How are you, mate? You've been keeping well?
Yeah, great, mate. Absolutely fantastic. You know, it's I think it's a little bit more interesting this summer for Wolves. It was last summer was obviously a lot of struggle with the FFP, and there's a lot going around. So, you know, this year looks a little bit better. We've made some moves. There's a lot happening. We've had some incomings, and of course we've had Max that's joined you guys. Yeah. We're going to be talking about, I think.
Yeah, we are going to talk about Max Kilman. I want to quickly touch on Wolves, though, actually, before obviously Gary O'Neill being there, and obviously, you know, from a West Ham player. I'm delighted to see him actually doing really well, and I think he's settled in lovely to that club. I'm pleased to see you quite busy. I was expecting you to be a bit quiet this summer. I think Gary O'Neill kind of hinted at it a little bit in a press conference that, you know, we're going to be selling before we can buy, etc., etc. But I don't know. You, as you say, it seems like you got your towels up, as it were, at the moment.
Well, last year they had to ship out a lot without really much coming in because we had such a black hole in FFP, and obviously that with everything, all the turmoil that was going on at the time with the manager situation, Gary coming in late, a lot of people had Wolves down for going down. In fact, I've spoke to a lot of creators before, and that, you know, I think something like 80% had us getting relegated. So in the end, we had a really good season. This year, Wolves are in a position where we haven't got to fill a black hole. We do have to. We're kind of like around about 20 million up before we start. Right. But we're still going to need to have player sales to raise money for incomings, and you know, we've had some really shrewd deals that have come in through the door. We've had 4. We've just signed a number 9 finally, which we've been missing since Raul Jimenez, Larson, the new Erling Haaland. He's Norwegian. He played with Erling. You know, if he's half the player he is, would be great. And with Rodrigo Gomez, Pedro Lima, Brazilian, who was going to Chelsea, and they've signed Tommy Doyle, 4.3 million. So 4 coming in. There'll probably been a couple of big ones going out to bring in the revenue, and obviously Max Kilman is one of those. Wolves have ideally wanted 45 million. He was on a long-term contract with Wolves. And obviously West Ham came in with a little silly prod to start with the 25 million.
I think that was it, yeah.
And then, to be fair, they've come back then with the increased offer of 40 million as part of the deal as well. Because, I mean, I don't know if you want to know the background. Wolves bought Max Kilman for £40,000.
Maidenhead, isn't it?
And we've turned that into 40 million. But Maidenhead did have a 20% sell-on fee. Wolves negotiated that down to 10 million. Basically, I think because West Ham's probably upper limit was 40, Wolves wanted 45. And I think Wolves have gone back to Maidenhead and said, look, you know, we ain't going to lose this extra 5 million. The deal might not happen, and you might. So, can we do it down to 10? I'm not saying exactly that's what happened, but probably what happened. And for Maidenhead, £4 million for that club is it's like massive. The difference it could make for them. So they're getting 4 million out of it.
Yeah.
And Wolves are getting the profit that they wanted. Max, I've met Max a couple of times. Also met his family a couple of times.
Wow.
Which you'll be interested. And obviously 6 years at Wolves. You know, it's the way PSR of FFP work. It's massive for Wolves. This is because of the way he's a homegrown player.
Yeah,
40,000, 40 million. So it's a PSR is a funny old thing, but homegrown players were worth more. So it's a big chunk of money. And he's gone over to West Ham, and J-Lo's obviously worked with Max at Wolves for 10 months and highly regards him. I think he's one of his top targets, and you've got him.
Yeah, I mean, I think West Ham, in general, are happy. I think there's a feeling that possibly we've overspent amongst the fans at the moment. I think as well, certainly the comments I've had on videos from Wolves fans has been that we've had our pants pulled down a little bit there. And, you know, I get the feeling that there was a bit of frustration around Kilman. Maybe I'm wrong. That's part of what I want to speak to you about in terms of possibly his leadership and his performances at times. I mean, we obviously don't, as a West Ham fan, certainly don't want any sort of negative cloud straight away under Kilman. You want to, let the lads settle in and see what he can do. And I'd like, from what I've seen of him play against West Ham, he's always come across well. I've never sort of highlighted him out and thought, God, he's struggling. But I think we spoke a little bit on the message, didn't we, before this? And I think you sort of hinted towards that his leadership's a bit questionable. What's the feelings realistically amongst Wolves fans? Do you feel like you've got a really good deal that you're happy to move on, or do you feel, you'd rather have seen him stay?
Do you know what? For £40 million, I think majority of Wolves fans think we've got a good deal there for Max. That's the general vibe that I'm getting. Now, look, what West Ham are getting with Max Kilman, you're getting, a homegrown, left-sided centre-back. Kilman, he's good at reading the game. He's great on the ball. He's incredibly reliable. He hasn't really picked up any injuries, and obviously he'll very much be able to help you play out from the back. I think that's something that your defence struggled a little bit recently. Obviously, he's had experience of being the captain of Wolves, and so he's going to have a little bit of leadership qualities. He's not very vocal, though. And he did come under some criticism from Wolves fans for not really being at the forefront of the leadership on the pitch, probably more off the pitch. He played every single minute of the 23-24 season, and he started 37 out of 38 games the previous season. He's almost always fit. He's 6'3", but he doesn't always use physical strength effectively. He probably performs better, in our opinion, when partnered with a more experienced defender. I've always thought, like, when he had Connor Cody alongside him in a 3, he looked so much happier. And interestingly enough, when Craig Dawson was in Wolves' defence, he's looked happier. When both Connor and Ballon Dawson, as you call him, was out the team, we've looked a lot vulnerable. And the end of last season, defensively, we were really struggling. And to be honest, we missed a lot of players in the forward areas. But I think we missed the experience of Craig Dawson more than anything, because, defensively, our goals were leaking towards the end of the season. I think, personally, Max is stronger in a 3 when he's on the left-hand side, and he can play on the right-hand side, and he has played in the centre as well, than in a 4. I always think he looks a little bit vulnerable in a 4. But, you're on about value for money. He's eligible to play for England, and English players always tend to go for a little bit more money. And he was on a very long-term contract with Wolves, 2027. So it's not like he's on a long-term contract, and he was captain. Wolves had offers last year, I think, from Marseille, and they rejected it. They kept him. But, £40 million at a time when Wolves do need to sell a big player. I think out of all the players that we'd have wanted to sell, probably Max would probably the one that we would think, we can afford him to go. He's a really, really top lad. He's a gentleman. He's very considered. He works really hard. He always says the right thing. As I say, I've had the privilege of, meeting him briefly a couple of times. But at London games, a couple of times, like when I've been some of the people I wanted to stay back with their kids, they wanted to stay back. I've met his mom, and I've actually had a chat a couple of times with his mom, because his mom, obviously Ukrainian as well, but living in London. So after London games, she would often wait for him, and then he would go to be with family. His brother, interesting enough, his younger brother is also in the Chelsea academy. And he's in the Chelsea academy. So I do think that would be another motivation for the move, because at the end of the day, Max is, moving back to London is going to be a lot closer to his family. So, West Ham, he's worked with Lopetegui, West Ham have got ambitions with the new project under him. It works for him as well. So I think it works for West Ham. Obviously, a key target for J-Lo. I think it works for Max in the fact that he's going to be moving to a London club, with a lot of potential under a manager that he knows that really wants him. and the fact that he's going to be closer to his family, which is great. It works for Maidenhead because they get the 4 million, and it works for Wolves because we've got a huge amount of profit because in FFP and PSR. So I think overall it's a really good deal. I can understand why some West Ham fans might think they paid a little bit over the odds, but when you take into account he's a left-footed English homegrown player, you're always going to pay a little bit more for that type of players than you would say like someone coming from Spain potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, there's a premium on English players, certainly. And I like you say as well, the fact he was on a long-term contract, the club captain, it was always going to be, you're never going to sell him for peanuts. So I like yourself, I was kind of expecting that we'd have to spend, I was expecting us to spend 40 million. I knew 45 was the price, but I thought we'd be around that. Probably the cheapest we'd have got was maybe 38 or something, maybe if we'd have really haggled, but I don't think we'd have got any better than that. So no, I'm not too disappointed with that. I wanted to bring your attention though, is it to Matt Hobbs, is he sporting director of Wolves? I don't know if you saw, he put up a statement, really nice statement actually about Kilman and what he'd done for the club and obviously the years he'd been there. But he did put in an interesting line. He said maybe some people will realise what he did for the pitch more now he's left than when he was here. A little bit of a strange. I don't know if you've seen that at all, Dave.
I noticed that to be honest, but I think the thing is with Max, because he's quite a quiet person. He's not like he's Connor Cody. We were used to having Connor Cody when he was captain. He was very vocal. He was, he's moving into punditry and all of that sort of stuff, and he's got that personality. Max isn't that type of person. He's a lot quieter in how he goes about his business. When I was talking to his mom after one of the London games, she said how proud he was to become captain of Wolves. Bearing in mind, this is a lad that was playing for Maidenhead. He was playing futsal, all of that. He'd been bombed out and built his way back up. Matt Hobbs was instrumental in bringing Max to Wolves, to the point that he really pushed to bring him because he saw the potential. I mean, just look at the profit. But Max is quite quiet. So I think when you're on the pitch, although he shows leadership qualities in how he handled himself, he wasn't very vocal. And sometimes, you want your captain to be seen to be geeing the team up. But I think he was more a club captain behind the scenes, that he did a lot. And I think that's probably what Matt is referring to. Right. He's an absolute model pro. He's a really great guy. He's down-to-earth lad. Interestingly enough, because obviously his mom's Ukrainian. He would have played for the Ukrainian national team, but and he does obviously would love to play for England, but he would have loved to play for the Ukrainian, but he couldn't because he played futsal for England, and that actually, strangely enough, because he played futsal for England at a senior level, meant he couldn't play for Ukraine because they did try to call him up apparently. So we've often thought when you look at the England centre backs, it's strange that Max, who's been ever present, has never even got in a squad. So maybe with West Ham, if they have a good season, he'll be able to finally get some international football. I mean, you look at Bobby Moore and the centre backs that West Ham have had over the years. If he follows in that sort of footstep, maybe he'll get an England call up at West Ham, have a really good year defensively, because I think he's got something different. But I mean, I can't say anything bad about Max really, because he's just a model pro and he works really, really hard.
That's lovely to hear that, Dave, and really sort of touching words you'll say about him. Actually, obviously, as you say, you know him personally. You've met him a few times, and his family and stuff. So yes, that does mean a lot, and I'm sure West Ham fans watching this will be really appreciative of that as well. I'm sure Wolves fans as well who might be watching it.
We wish him well, and you know what? When he comes back to Molineux, he will get a great reception. Some fans that go. Mateus Nunes being one, came back with City after he tried to push a move. Max will come back. He'll get a really good reception. He always gave 100% for the badge, and if you've got a player that does that, a bit like Dawson for West Ham, when he goes back to West Ham, we love him. He always gave everything, and Max is very similar in respect that he will always give everything for the badge and for the club. He'll always give 100%.
I'm glad you brought up Dawson actually, because it's really strange because he's probably one of the only transfers I can remember where he's left West Ham and genuinely I've not only wanted him to do well, but I love the fact that Wolves fans love him as much as we do. Do you know what I mean? It's like I love the fact that the fans have taken to him because he was just such a great signing for us. Because he was one that wasn't glamorous. We weren't really excited about it when we got him from Watford, and we were going, "Oh, what Dawson? Really?" You know, quite annoyed. I think fans were quite frustrated, but he really just. It was a breath of fresh air, actually. So it's great. I'm so glad he's done well at Wolves and continues to do so. So
yeah, it was a shame because he had a groin issue at the end of last season. Had to have an operation, and we really missed him. We have got quite a young squad in a lot of ways, so you have someone a little bit older that's been around. And don't forget that Dawson actually played for West Brom for a long time as well. Which
of course,
yeah. So like the fact that the Wolves fans have really taken to him as well. I mean, obviously there's a lot of water gone in between when he played for West Brom and played for Wolves, but they've taken to him, and you just feel a little bit more secure. The only thing with Dawson is coming towards the end of his career now, so it catches up on you. So whether he'll be a mainstay in the Wolves defence this year, I would, we've got Yerson Mosquera who played out on loan for 2 years at Villarreal. He's coming back. I would imagine that Wolves will also go into the transfer window and probably bring in another central defender. I know Gary O'Neill ideally wants to play a back four. And as I say, the one thing that I've always been a little bit concerned about is Max in a back four rather than a back three. I always think he looks a little bit shaky in a back four, and that would be the only thing I would say, depending on how Lopetegui sets up.
Yes.
The back four is he can play in a back four, but he can do it, and he has done it, but he just looks a little bit more vulnerable. He seems to me like he always wants a little bit more security around him. And that's the one thing that the one little thing I'd possibly be worried about. But I guess we'll depend. I don't know how Lopetegui is going to set up, whether he's going to go with a back four or a back three. But I think Max is a lot better in a back three, back five than two centre backs personally.
Well, let's have a word with J-Lo, mate. I mean, I'll drop him a message later. Say that's it, back three. I don't trust him in the four. Dave, before you go, mate, obviously, absolute pleasure speaking to you. I want to get your thoughts quickly, though, on the season ahead. What are your predictions and what are your thoughts for Wolves this season?
Well, I think it's really way too early to kind of say just yet, because obviously, a lot of players. I mean, your guys are coming back to training.
Yeah.
Wolves had players come back on Friday and Monday. Obviously, our Portuguese contingent, we got 3 over with Portugal. They will come back a little bit earlier than now. They're knocked out. Joe Gomez has been out with Brazil. They got knocked out by as well on penalties to Uruguay. So they'll be given a bit of time off. But we've made good starts in the transfer window. Obviously, there's question marks over the likes of Pedro Neto. His injury record's not great, but he's dynamic. He's a good forward. He might go. I think you can only really judge it when the transfer window closes. Are you stronger than when the transfer window closes than when it opened? Wolves have made some good moves in the transfer window at the start, so I'm very positive. It's looking a lot more positive than last season when everyone was in a meltdown. I've heard Matt Hobbs talking to Jurgen Strand Larsen, who's the new Norwegian striker that we've bought, on a video saying that Wolves are aiming to get into Europe next year. So they're aiming high. So I would predict that Wolves will have a stronger season and we will improve our finish and hopefully be pushing for the European places. And I'd love us to get to a cup final. That would be great. What's your what are you thinking with West Ham?
Top half for me. I mean, it's Lopetegui's first season, so obviously there's a fair amount of expectation there, but I think it'd be a bit harsh to sort of say, "Oh, go on, go for top six." I think realistically, just a nice solid season. Just don't want to be down that bottom anywhere near it. Really, just stay away from that all season. And hopefully we have a push like yourself for a European spot. It'd be nice for us if both clubs were vying in that kind of position, because you do look at the Premier League now, and it does feel different. You look at certain clubs. Manchester United look quite vulnerable. Chelsea aren't quite what they used to be. Aston Villa proved that last season. Got up there and muscled their way in, and I think Newcastle was still not quite. I'm not quite sold on them just yet. So I think there's a bit of opportunity actually for clubs like ourselves to give it a real good go. But I think for West Ham, if we can I'd love to be back in Europe. I'd happily take the Conference League again. It was fantastic. One of the best experiences.
Well, you won it.
Yeah, it was brilliant, mate. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed that. It was fantastic. I'd happily take that. But but as long as we're just away from the relegation zone, it'd be nice to sort of kick on a little bit and not have any flirting with that. To be fair, we didn't have it last season, but it'd be nice not to have it again.
Same for us, really. And you don't want to be scrambling down the. We've got a really tough start to the season. Our first 9 games, it's a really difficult start.
That doesn't help, does it? Let's be honest.
No, because if you're on the back foot and stuff. But we had a difficult start last season, and then we beat Man City, and then we kicked on, and obviously we fell away a bit because at one point we were pushing European football, and then we fell away a bit. We had, we lost 4 of our 5 front 5. Then Dawson got injured and it impacted us. But luckily, we got enough points. So it fell away a bit. The end of last season, the momentum wasn't good. But interestingly enough, we're both going to get an early look at each other because we are playing each other over in the States.
We are playing each other in the States. Where's my ticket, Dave? That's what I want to know. That's
why
I've arranged this.
As well.
Yeah, that's why I've arranged this. This is nothing to talk about Max Kilman. It's just to get a ticket to Vegas or wherever we're going.
Yeah, so they're playing in that little mini tournament thing.
Yeah. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? That'd be interesting. I mean, you always, as you say, it's quite nice the pre-season stuff and get to see your new players and etc. But as you say, it'd be interesting to see how we shape up. I mean, you say your start is rather tough. I did have a little look earlier in terms of the fixtures as well, just generally, to be honest, just randomly. But be interesting if you can get through that start, then that usually sets you in a good tone. But I mean, and it will be a big test for you. But I mean, thankfully, we've had a bit of a strange one where we don't actually leave London until November. I don't know if you've seen that.
Is that right?
Yeah, our first 4 away games are London derbies.
No way. To be honest, at one point last season, we had, I think it was October or whatever it was. I felt like I should move to London because all of our games are in London. It's like one after another. I thought I'd get an apartment; it'd be cheaper.
Yeah, there you go.
All the away games because there is a lot of London games. But yeah, no, I think West Ham are in a very strong position. They've made moves, and. Obviously, it'd be interesting to see what other moves that you make. I mean, the good thing, the money that you got for Declan Rice has really put you in a strong position in terms of PSR and FFP, which is why you can go out and and invest this sort of money in players. And it'd be interesting to see how the team evolves. Obviously, now that you've moved Moyes on, and it's kind of a new era for you guys as well. And I think as long as Max concentrates on the football, you'll be all right.
Yeah, I agree. It's an exciting chapter, and as I say, I think it's also the same for Wolves. Actually, I think Gary O'Neill. I really like O'Neill. I think he's a really good manager. I think he talks really well and comes across great. And it'd be nice to see him now push on. Do you know what I mean? Take the club to that sort of level where he's going to start. If he can get a good solid finish with Wolves this season, get into that, as you say, get a European spot, it'd be fantastic. Because I think you've got a really good manager there, and I'm glad that Wolves took the sort of chance on him, obviously, because
it's worked out really well. Because it wasn't very well received at the time, but he's done really, really well, and I think he'll get a brand new contract very, very soon, I would imagine, and for the job that he's done last year, and then let's hope he kicks us on.
Absolutely.
As I say, it's early doors yet in the window, but transfer wise, as a Wolves fan, we've always been so slow, and so to bring in 4 signings already, and then obviously Max going out, there's a lot going on at the moment, so it is interesting. But I think we're through the worst of the FFP PSR stuff. We've got a bit more clear blue water, and hopefully the sale of Max is certainly going to help with some of the signings that they're going to continue to bring in. There'll be more players coming in, and I think it's to be honest, it's almost a perfect move for everyone. To be honest, the Wolves fans aren't unhappy. They wish Max well. He's a proper decent lad. He's moving closer to his family. Maiden, you're helping a grassroots team with £4 million. Going to be massive for them. And Wolves are, have got that money in the bank. So, we are going to be weaker without him currently because obviously he was captain. He's established. But if Matt Hobbs, who's done a really good job since he's been sporting director, I'm sure he's got a plan for it, and I feel like we'll come out the window stronger as a whole. And if we do that, we'll be in for a good season. And I hope
so, mate.
Well at West Ham, and he gets that England call up.
Mate, really appreciate it. Really kind words, and obviously, and absolutely with Wolves, I hope you have a good season, and I'm sure we certainly will be touching base again, because we'll be doing more videos and throughout the season, I'm sure, when we play you, and hopefully that's when you're having a bit of a bad day, but you never know.
Well, yeah, I always look forward to coming down to the West Ham stadium. It's a great stadium in terms of facilities. Not always the best.
No. It needs work. It needs a lot of work, but yeah, I know what you mean. It's handy.
But in terms of facilities, beg your pardon. It's very spacious. It's like it's just the bowl type of thing. But they do their best to make it, getting it closer. They're obviously up in the number. What's it up to now? 60,000 or
62 and a half, I think it is now. Yeah, like it increases every week, mate. You know what I mean? They throw a few more out. It's hard to keep up. Yeah.
No, brilliant. Well, thanks for asking us on, and I hope you got your subscribers have found this of interest and of value, and no doubt we'll probably talk before the start of the season as well. So it'd be great, and obviously during the season too.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we've got your link below, by the way, for Always Wolves Fan TV. So I mean, great channel, Dave. You're doing a really good job, and I hope we'll touch base again this season, I'm sure, and let's hope we have a good season, both sides.
I'm glad that you got your voice back now as well.
Just about a little bit. All right, mate. Thank you very much. Mate. Cheers, David. Take care. Bye, mate.
Cheers. Bye.